these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise. I tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. Please, Lord, forgive them. They try to hold back and chillin' like they ain't know it was written. Break every chain. Wanna free my people from mental prisons. The eyes on the sparrow, I know we'll narrow divisions. Hope is the boat to keep us afloat just as you envision. Faith to erase the pain from all of our people slain. Destined for change, actions to back up your spoken name. When they throw dirt on ours, we use it to plan game. When it rains, we go greater together, no matter the weather. Trust these dark days, gonna get better. Know that love will be the light to guide all our endeavors. And even if the tide should rise, we'll ride it forever. Why? We are mighty, we'll fight for our lives, cause we're dying to live. Future is ours, the timing is now. Black and we proud, we're saying it loud. We gave it our all, there's so much more to give. We breaking down all the walls. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise. I tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. Never backing down for the cause, trying to put our life on pause, cause you're moving the image of God. No matter the hate that's spoken, our spirits remain unbroken. The divine man says you can't count us out, we are the answer. From the youth to the elders, ain't what you can tell us. Style and brilliance of mind, heart as bright as sunshine. Warrior spirits alive, so no, we won't be denied. So vibration is high, and the frequency so angelic, like people come on. Rise up. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise. Tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up. I tell them we gon' rise up. We gon' rise up. Rise up.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peace and
family. Peace and family. Yup. Peace and family. Peace and blessings. Peace and power to you all this evening. It's Monday night. So you know what time it is. It's Soundbytes International Radio. Black conscious to claim.
One world is the aim.
Absolutely. Bringing the conversations pertinent to our deep historic landscape to the Earth's family to ensure healing, empowerment, and upliftment into the future for us the world over. Hasir Nefara, and this is
Nefara to Mahati.
Yes, you already know. Peace and blessings, family. Shouts out, Brother Joseph. We appreciate you, family. Thank you for tuning in as always. Right, peace and family too, exactly. All day, every day. So you already know how it is, on the opening. Please make sure you share this conversation. Join the conversation this evening, and share the broadcast with your people. That's how we get the message across, and that's how we build on the community collaboration and sorting through these things we go through. You dig? So of course, make sure you follow us and like us on Facebook. You're probably watching us generally on Facebook, but make sure you actually liked and following us to stay in tune with all the content that we share on Soundbytes International Radio. Also follow us on Twitter. We are streaming via Periscope on our Twitter page at Soundbytes INTL. On our Twitter, we're also streaming live on our YouTube page at Soundbytes International Radio. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let's get the subscribers up. We want to get the subscribers into the thousands and thousands of people across the YouTube landscape, so we can make sure these messages get through. So please hit subscribe and tell your friends to subscribe as well. And also follow us on Instagram, not Twitter, Instagram, Soundbytes International Radio. We can get the actual sound bites of these conversations on a daily basis on our Instagram feed. So please do follow us on the Instagrams. And also remember, as you see down below on the ticker, is you can visit our website at thisissoundbytes.com to stay connected. You can follow our audio version, this podcast version of these episodes over the past 3 years, going on 4 years of Soundbytes content. On Apple, absolutely standing strong with it. On Spotify and Apple Podcasts at Soundbytes International Radio. So make sure you hit the follow on that. Those links are available on the homepage of the website. You can click those and hit the follow. Make sure you leave your reviews, your 5 stars, leave your reviews. All of that helps in that particular landscape. You know how we got to use these tools in the matrix to make some things push through. So please do that. Also, there's merch available on the page on the website, so you can get that Soundbytes merch, gift yourself something, while also gifting back to independently owned Black-run operation right here with Soundbytes International Radio with Nephra and I. Also, if not, or for whatever reason you don't want to get a gift for yourself in that space, you can. We do appreciate contributions and donations to help support the continued sustainability of this operation. There is a contribute button that's available on the website. You can also contribute through our Cash App, which is $ Soundbytes Radio, to contribute through the Cash App. So that's that as always. And the conversations are ongoing. We always want to keep it flowing. So today we want to talk about this idea around not just Black lives but African lives.
One diaspora, one blood.
Absolutely, one people, one diaspora.
One
absolutely.
Blood.
So and just really reflecting on the reality that we're dealing with. We've had the protests going on for years and years, particularly that we've been quote unquote awakened across our community a bit more. And awaken across other, ethnic groups as well, of the injustices that American Blacks, Africans on American soil have faced blatantly in the wake of a George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor for this year alone during the pandemic, when everyone was forced to sit at home and watch the injustices take place with Black folk blatantly on camera, and basically their abusers, their executioners going off scot-free, right? And a lot of us, engaging in being accomplices to that. One Daniel Cameron. So showing all skin folk and kinfolk, as the saying goes, that we really want to look at this idea of who does African lives matter to, right? We scream Black Lives Matter. We scream we particularly scream African lives do matter, right? But we it's important to take a look at why we have to do that. Especially when people want to ask, well, what about all lives matter? Right. Well, there's a reason. There's a reason why we have to scream these things out. There's a reason why these sentiments are being expressed. When you feel like you're being dejected and feel like you're being mistreated and left on the back burner, treated as like the stepchild, as they say, what have you.
We'd be lucky if we got treated like the stepchild.
If that, right? And you want to say something about, hey, we're here too. Hey, check this out. My life matters too as well. So we all know, and we've explained it to these people 1,000 times over. We know they get it. They just don't want to act like they do. But we really want to look at that whole dynamic, like the fact that we do have to say it. Right? Who do our lives matter to? And to how big a landscape is that? And when was it first devalued? When did our lives first devalued? How long has that conversation been going on?
How long has it been a thing?
How long has it been a thing? So I think that's important for us to really discuss and break down constantly. We have to constantly break down these conversations so we can get to the root of the problem. Because a lot of times what we battle with out here in this world, in this external world, is the symptoms of the problem. Like we still have to deal with the root problem, the root virus. I'm saying we ain't talking about COVID. We're talking about the root virus of racism and discrimination that takes place at the root of white supremacy and a systemic oppression, right? And then what comes out of that as a residual that leads up to that, which is like unfair wages and unfair job opportunities, food insecurity, poverty. All those things are pieces to a bigger issue that compounded affect Africans the nation over, and even really due to neocolonialism and the influence of white supremacy across the globe in different outskirts of different countries as well, right? Where blackness is still treated as inferior or what have you, even in black countries, African countries, right? So we still deal with those residuals to this day. So we want to get to the root of when that was devalued and how we can get to a space of getting to that, get some Sankofa around our blackness and our Africanness and our identity. That's basically the crux of Soundbytes conversation each week is how do we get back to that? How do we get into that Sankofa of ourselves? And it's by having these conversations, right? So we want to look at those things. I don't know if you wanted you had a particular thing to speak about.
I mean, we building out on a consistent basis, and we're having a talk once a week, twice a week. Once a week, African in Business, twice a week. The series is winding to an end with the end of this year, but we're having a conversation because it's necessary for us to. I don't know if you guys remember the movie The Golden Child, right? The Golden Child is in the middle of the circle, and these evil people needed to keep this child covered on all sides with evil, right? So if you need a picture for your mind, the child is in the middle sitting there and he's eating these little leaves, right? And he's eating one little leaf at a time. He's getting his chlorophyll, he's eating in one little leaf. He's not coming out. He's eating the food that they're giving him because they're trying to give him oatmeal covered underneath the oatmeal is blood. So they want to taint the child. They want to taint the space. The child representative of a space, an African innocence, a place of prestige and glory, a place of, just dynamic, divine intention and inspiration inside of this space. And it was created this kid, this child representing this. And all around, if you look at the scene when Eddie Murphy is in the scene, the walls are all covered in evil writings, curses, scripts, or what have you. So if you look at your life as an African today, you want to see how did the African become center and all of this evil moving around this African to oppress this African? Where did this consciousness come from? So we have the sub-Saharan slave trade. I even saw a video this week with came across my timeline. This is how they treat Africans in France. One video where they body slammed a woman in Canada. And this is how they treat the caption was, this is how they treat Black people in Canada. There's another one in France with this officer beating this man all over the top of his head, just body slamming him with his elbows and his back. This is how they treat African people in France. And then we also have Africans in cages in Africa, Northern Africa. We have Africans on the continent being manipulated by outside forces where they're mistreating African people on the continent. And then we have Africans here in the diaspora who are grappling dog eat dog by any means necessary, no manners, no behaviors, just take whatever you can get because African lives don't really matter. And not being connected to the fact that everything from the way you came out from 2.5 years old, because you can send your children to pre-K at 2.7 years old in America, where they begin to indoctrinate these children in this, what I call white brain, white center consciousness, where they start to spin around that child and create a real tight space with all the possible and evil. Evil is designated anything that goes against the African's greatest good. So people don't like to use strong language because they like to use colorful white people feel good language. Because now when you use real talk and real conversation about things that are truly blatantly true, now you have to face them and you have to now change your behavior. Point blank, anything that goes against your greatest good is evil. It doesn't work to your benefit. And people who are having a white center consciousness do not want to accept that anything about them is evil because they've also been culturated in a society that said, oh, white was right. White was good. And it does not open up the space for real discovery where white people need to understand and see that some of their behaviors are downright detrimental to not only themselves, others, and the world landscape as a whole. And since the higher you get, the wider you get. And in these spaces, now you want to talk about 1619, when the American trades, Atlantic slave trade. But you go before that from 650 to anywhere, 1200 BC, 1300 BC, where you start talking about the sub-Saharan slave trade, which we rarely ever talk about. You rarely, if ever, hear about the sub-Saharan slave trade, because America's in bed with sub-Saharan oil trade, so nobody wants to brand them. And right now, America is not really facing its transatlantic slave trade. It's doing something that looks a little like we entertaining y'all a little bit, but we're not really doing anything impactful. Like we're not really, and African people, we tap dancing around it. We kind of like we have a little conversation. We're gonna make this. We will put Kwanzaa flags, and then we'll put the candles around with the Christmas tree and the Rosh Hashanah and and Three Kings. So we'll just put everybody together, just have a little entertainment kind of thing. But legally is where it really matters, and there's nothing in play that's going to legally support African people's well-being and greatest good. And there's so many people in this space with so many different narratives. It is so shocking to me of all the confusion, which is why we as a community of people, we subscribe to so many dysfunctional behaviors and ways of thinking, and then we support them. And in the Matrix, he said, so many people are not ready to be unplugged. They're so inert, so hopelessly dependent upon the system that they will fight to protect it. These people are going hardcore, hard body strong and dead wrong for the foolishness in the Matrix. So when did African life not matter? When they decided that African people were going to be the catalysts. First of all, the land that the people were on. The reality of it is, if these folks could have just wiped all the people out, they would have done that. They would have just killed all of the people, because it's been done. It's been done. Killed all of the Tasmanian. Land that migrated across the earth when the earth was a greater land mass than it is today. See, because you need more than just your consciousness of today. You need more than just the books that you're reading from today to understand migration patterns, to understand how people moved around the planet and how long people have been on this planet. People who have had a white-centered consciousness have changed the timeline. They changed the timeline to throw you off your research. This is why you need to read scholars who actually want to see you get free in your mind. Right. You got to read scholars whose intention is for you to find the information out, have the information, change your behavior, and have the information guide your future.
Right, become applicable in real time.
Right. You need those scholars. You need scholars who are going to stand for you coming into a place of enlightenment.
Right.
Remember, you've been in 2 years, 7 months, you've been indoctrinated. And it's really difficult for me, because even though I'm having a conversation like this with some of our African brothers and sisters, even for those who hear this information, it's not actionable.
Right.
They really take this information as another form of entertainment, kind of sort of. It soothes some sort of
it's like a feeling,
vice almost.
Right. It's like a feeling like you did something, like without actually having to do anything.
We
become accustomed to literally like this idea of performative behaviors, where we don't want to subscribe to actually doing the work. We subscribe to the idea of the work being done, and preferably if we don't have to do it ourselves, and that's great. That's how we've succumbed to the system. The Matrix has had us believe that performative gestures and us believing because we read something that it's enough. The idea that knowledge is power is which we talk about a lot, is that knowledge applied is power. There's an extra piece to it. Just like I said, money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. Right. So that meaning that the love of money indicates that there's an action that's being placed around that, and that you are the one doing the action. You are the one that's in putting the work forth to build on this emotion and in turn on this energy, and in turn on whatever actions come as a result of indulging in these energies. Right. So there has to be an accountability play. And that's one of the things that's severely lacking, not even just really in the African community, but in humanity in general, by virtue of what's been created in this landscape. Even in the 1600s or beyond or what have you, it's just been cultivated in the space. And despite the specific intricacies done around genocide and pain and traumas done on African people and indigenous peoples or what have you. There's been residual casualties of just other people as well that kind of just get the one off of it, and their psychosis is a part of it too. But that's just what is lent itself to the way society operates. It's scarcity minded. It's no accountability. Someone is always to blame except the actual person, right? Except the people that are involved and engaged in the activity. So we become so accustomed to these vices. We become so accustomed to these ways of being that don't serve us. And then when it comes down to the breaking point, someone else is responsible, and we never get back to self. We never get back to actual an empowered state of being with ourselves, and how we operate with humanity. So we're disconnected from our humanity. We're disconnected from our identity, which particularly for Africans. We're disconnected from any type of accountability and how we get to be better people. And we become so accustomed to the comforts of what evil has left us on the plate, right? So and that's something we need to dive deeper in, or we get to dive deeper into. Is how we process that particularly. Peace and blessings, brother Arik. Sister Myrtle, we thank y'all for joining in. Please share the conversation, join the conversation as well.
Please add your comments.
Absolutely. We bring value to each other as a reciprocal conversation. We're talking with the family. So we don't want to just, talk at everybody. We want to share the thoughts, and let us know what's up. So we want to share your comments as well.
Yes. So when did African lives become devalued? Mm-hmm. And how did we as a community become indoctrinated to devaluing ourselves? And there's the reality of that I've come in contact with, because, my life is social experiments, is I've actually been putting this work in play. And I'm here to tell you that, in real time play. I don't mean for fake play, just kind of like willy-nilly with it, but like really being the difference that's different and actually putting the work on it as a daily practice. And it looks weird, it looks strange, and it also shows up as something peculiar in our own community. I read something today I wanted to read something to you guys from today from, we always get our good word from the Baba Malemu Baruti. And he said today, he put a post up, Iwa, for African people, virtues are divine. They include such admirable qualities as being selfless, kind, considerate, generous, attentive, humble, caring, respectful, merciful, conservative, xenophilic. Okay, got it. of that which is good, creative, and healing. These qualities speak to a generosity of one's spirit and heart towards others, especially those maintaining a peaceful, harmonious, reciprocal order within the macro and microcosm of the universe. Sure. And that came out of his book, Iwa, A Warrior's Character. So you guys don't look, can you see that?
No, I doubt it. Just IWA. Check it out. Mwalimu Baruti.
Yes, at the Akoben House.
Absolutely.
www.akobenhouse.com.
Absolutely.
So family, and grab that text for your nerve. Listen, you gotta read scholars who want to see you enlightened. You gotta understand the Matrix does not want you enlightened. There's a reason for it.
As above all else, that's enriching in itself, and that's wealth to just be enlightened in yourself.
If you are asleep, the Matrix can manipulate you. You're vulnerable. That's the whole purpose. The whole premise of this confusion, the whole premise of all of these different segments that keep us separated, all of these premises that exploit our insecurities, these insecurities that were given to us. These are insecurities that were bred into us since 2 years and 7 months. Come and make sure your child is potty trained before they come to daycare. They come to daycare, they potty trained. That's good. It saves you $10. That's how I was when my son was coming up. So we inbred these insecurities in you. See the black woman on the TV, whatever. She got cornrows. But as soon as she goes up for the big photo shoot, she got the long weave down to her butt. As if that's, because African is something that we just kind of do every now and again. It's just something we do in between in the meantime. It's not something that we do up front. It's not something we do in front. I used to go to work at Raps. And, you know, I'm in a profession where I can pretty much dress how I want to dress, as long as I'm, you know, clean and you know, appropriate, right? But wearing African clothes, these are not my costumes. These are my clothes. I wear these every day. So how did we become indoctrinated to African lives don't matter? When is it that we made ourselves to the point where we don't understand or interact with each other in a way that is loving and caring? Because we are wearing our white-centered consciousness, because white-centered consciousness devalues African life. If white-centered consciousness understood and implemented actions of African lives matter, there's certain things that white-centered consciousness would not be able to do to African people.
Right.
You understand that consciousness? There is a cognitive dissonance that Dr. Joy DeGruy talks about in her post-traumatic slave syndrome. And when she does a presentation, there's a sense of cognitive dissonance. If I recognize you as a real person through and through, 100% the same way I recognize myself and my own children, I wouldn't be able to treat you certain ways. See, because when you run through the system, and I'm here to tell you that I put this work on, I'm walking in this work, and I'm walking in this space, and it's actually a tug of war simply because it's not a space for it. There is no immediate residual for it. There's no immediate result for it. And see, that's another thing that we as African people, we think that we get money because money represents safety. So we keep trying to get money. We listen, if I decide to tap dance out here and start, you know, hey, everybody, let's do a business plan, because I can do that too, right? Because I'm trained this way. I can do that. I can say, hey, tap dancer, come on, everybody, we're going to do your business plan. We're going to have a mastermind right now. Let's get together. Come on, come in the Zoom, $25 on your head. Come in the Zoom, $25 on the head. I'm going to help you with your business plan. Here they come, ding, 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 ding. Here go the Cash App, because the Cash App makes the sound of cash when money falls through. Ding, ding, sound like penny. That's how it sounds.
I would not.
That's what happened. But you know, it's people out. That's what it sounds like.
Right. I rarely know because I keep my sound off my phone.
It really, no, it sounds like it's like coins dropping into a little bank.
I really like that sound. It's like Birdman hand rub time.
Like, yeah, come through. But I could do that. But why would I do that? There's enough people out here doing that.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you become supported in yourself. You didn't become a better African. You became selfish. You got what you needed for you. And then you went around and you studied in front of African people. You didn't even really try to help nobody else, because that's what most of them do. They help 2 or 3 people and they cipher, and then they stunt and they show off for everybody else. That's it. They're not out here living an environment of being loving. Because you know what, when you get yourself right, you know you can't be around African people because they're gonna try to rob you, they're gonna try to steal, they're gonna beg. If you're in a loving heart, there's no way you can't talk to your people and be with your people. And you can't necessarily, you could give a man a fish he can eat today, but you got to teach him how to fish so he can eat tomorrow.
Right.
Are you capable of teaching a man a fish he can eat tomorrow?
What are the value? What systems are we putting value in? And I think it's important to look at money as it stands within the capitalist society is too volatile a mechanism to be dependent on for you to identify what your elevation or your uplift or your empowerment it doesn't work to sustain that feeling, because the moment you don't have it, then that feeling is gone, and then you have to feel like, what do I have to do? There's something strange for some change just to make you feel whole again, right? And the wholeness and totality should be in understanding the solidified senses of self-worth that do exist, and it starts with understanding self and the love for self on the inner. Right, you want to attach yourself to that, and that I think harkens back to the idea of how we were Africanness as a costume, and in this idea of we've been indoctrinated to believe that Africanness is not essentially quote unquote real per se, right? Where it's not something that's actually a part of our being, it's something part of our existence, right? Because we have other cultures that whether they're born here or they come here, they know exactly where they're coming from. They know exactly where their lineage stands, whether they're Scottish, whether they're East Indian, whether they're Iranian, from Yemen, or whether they're from Swiss or Finnish or what have you, whatever you want to call it.
Because they have a land. There's a land associated with them.
There's a land associated with it. Whereas we have this such a deep-rooted, deep-seated break and belonging from our identity from a whole entire continent. We can't even begin to pull where that identity comes from. And so we've been indoctrinated to believe that it's all just whatever. We're just here. We're American Black. That's it. I'm from Blacklandia.
And that's all we got.
And that's what we got. And then the disconnect that's been created with how we view via the media, how we view Africans, and how Africans not of the country view us. And that disparity that takes place between us. right? You know, and this overall how we,
Right.
you know, and on top of already just the Africans of the U.S. soil that have been conditioned to hate one another, hate each other, what have you. Yeah, we have our clips. We know our mannerism. We know our colloquialism. We know what it means. You know, like the black families of Thanksgiving and all that type of stuff. We have those cultural nuances about ourselves, yes, but there's still those deep rooted pieces of self destruction that we've engaged that we have to break free from. That don't allow us to be our 100% empowered, and maximize ourselves. Right? We want to take, for instance, like look at this whole thing recently with the Grammys, right? And the Grammys, and like, you know, and they, like people, you know, we keep saying every year, oh, the Grammys is messed up, the Grammys is not diverse, this and that. They never want to choose the right people, what have you. And it's like, it's all well and good, whatever, but you know, you hear most of the talk about the Grammys. Whereas, you know, when it comes to BET Awards, there's always something joking. There's always something kind of hoo ha ha, where it's not treated as serious. And then the Soul Train Award just sneaks up on you. And it's like, I mean, I don't watch TV. We haven't watched TV in a long time. So it's either way for us, but social media doesn't allow us to not see anything, you know, when it comes to the Grammys, but we never see the Soul Train Awards that pops up and it's happening. And that you would say is something that's for us.
Ancillary. That's ancillary. That's not a front. We'll get around to it if we can.
Exactly. And that's actually a platform that's for us. When we want to talk about where our awards platforms, this and that, that's a platform that's for us. It's been for us for a very long time. So when we say how do we relate to our Africanness, how do we relate to our blackness, and the collectiveness in that, and the value of that, we want to look at these little pieces, these micros of the macro vision of how we connect to our Africanness, how we connect to us mattering in the matrix. When we matter to ourselves within the space, and everything else outside doesn't matter.
That's right.
You know, we have to matter to ourselves first, and not for the sake of, well, if we matter to ourselves, then they'll think we matter. No,
because who cares?
Who cares? Because check this out, they're not worried about that in their particular community.
No, they're not.
They're not worried about, oh, well, maybe, you know, well, black people will like us if we did X, Y, and Z. No, black people actually like you if you stop fucking killing us and stop bothering us when we're trying to live our lives and try to be.
And black
and finding the need to come out.
They're not here coming for white people.
Coming around corners throwing bottles at us while we're jogging.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, I heard about that. Come around corners.
We talked about that.
Yeah, and when you said the dude was chasing a black woman with a chainsaw.
With a chainsaw up a flight of stairs. She's coming in from work and he's in his apartment revving up the chainsaw. I believe that was in Florida. This came up this week. It was on the news.
Florida. What are you doing?
I believe it was Florida.
Always up to something.
In a subdivision, and this dude is coming to my black people, been robbing him. And then here goes what's his name? D.L. Hughley said, listen, the worst place for a black person is in the minds of a white person. Like, and then I wanted to show because Baba Abdul today shared
Baba
Abdul shared an article today. And I'm just flabbergasted when you come to put all of these pieces together, and it says why America is still living with the damage done by the super predator lie. You know, and this happened 25 years ago. I'm gonna say this man's name wrong. DeLulio, I believe it is. John DeHulio, 25 years ago, a political science professor created and disseminated one of the most dangerous and lethal lies in our history. He coined the term super predator, depicting black children as remorseless animals who would prey on victims. Make no mistake, racism propelled the spread of this theory. DeHulio insisted that this young, more dangerous breed of offender would soon target upscale central city districts, inner ring suburbs, and even the rural heartland. So this is basically what's happening here. The warning was clear. White America was in danger. Listen, white America, just like America says, oh, everybody's trying to come after our freedoms and they are against us.
They're trying to take our jobs.
Nobody is against America. People are against America's government and corporatocracy. And people themselves from other countries who come here to do quote unquote alleged harm to America and try to slap America in the face or punch America, give America a black eye, so to speak, are coming because they're tired of America in their country stealing their resources, starving their people. Period. There's a real sensible reason for this. But white people get the white-centered consciousness, right? Because when whiteness became, you want to really understand and categorize that for African people. You all need to understand this because white folks, they have systems to educate themselves. And they also know this, which is why they have consciousness that buffers these psychoses. Okay, you on the other hand, you need to know this. Okay, because it's critical that you understand when whiteness became a thing, because there was a time when African people ruled Europe. Okay, Moors, the Africans, the brown people, ruled Europe. Okay, so color wasn't a thing at one point. When whiteness became a thing, whiteness was a way for the systems that were trying to create here in America to separate the intentions of both groups. Okay, because at one point, both groups were trying to get, Bacon's Rebellion were trying to get rights, employment rights, and they both would have benefited, and they fought to walk together. So now we need to inbreed prejudice, hatred, along with what was happening in slavery. So this was the recovery. This was a natural recovery of what was happening after slavery. Some of the white folks was on the ground, equal to African people. You know, they were starting to work together. They were building alliances based on their needs, based on their class. They were building alliances. This would have been a sufficient trajectory to take us in a different direction from where we are now. And that's in healing from what was, right? See, the things that, you know, and then we had a movie today showed a clip, The Lost City of Z, where there's a room full of white men somewhere around, I guess the year might have been something like 17 something. And, you know, this gentleman is up front talking about, this is when they were discovering the indigenous people of the Amazon. And, you know, white men believe that people from other cultures are savages. There's no other excuse but other than that they are savages. You wash your hair, you brush your teeth, you grill your food or whatever the case may be, and you make these buildings and these temples and you carve in stone or what have you. So that makes you more civilized than these people. When these people do exactly the same thing, they just do it differently. They live in freaking 125 degrees in the shade. Why would they want to wear all these frills and clothes? Right? That's appropriate. They speak a different language. You speak a different language. Why shouldn't they speak a different language? But see, the rationale doesn't make sense to me, because every other culture of people, when they did discovery, they always acknowledged other people's cultural experience and tried to integrate and find harmony with them. Yeah. It's only white-centered conscious that decided that it was going to judge. When I told you 1,000 times, African white-centered conscious doesn't have the faculties to judge you. Right. They don't have the faculties from day one to judge anything you're doing.
It's very much like, I don't like that. You need to subscribe to what I'm talking about so we can be on the same page.
Even though I've never
my
seen
page is the right page. Period. And that's why you have the whole conditioning around African folks on U.S. soil, to where it's like Africans, like slaves were dumb and lazy, and slave people were dumb and lazy. No, they weren't. They were confused, and they weren't speaking a stupid ass language that don't make any sense with read, read, and lead, led, and everything all in between. Two.
American language is the bastard language because it's stolen from other types of languages.
Beat up.
So who the hell speaks English anyway, other than the English, right? Yeah. So the English is considered the bastard language because it's pieces of, but that's a whole nother sector, etymology, et cetera, and all of this understanding language and different things like that, where these words come from and the progression of these cultural norms. So, and language being one of them, religion, holiday, religion, holidays, those are cultural rituals, how they bury their dead, how we marry,
all that is different.
Rites of passage, community organization, governing processes. All of these things are cultural.
And they all look different depending on who the culture is.
Depending on where you go on the planet.
And they can even look different within those cultures, like subcultures of cultures that have a nuanced way of how the overarching culture may present this particular idea. Right, or these particular foods, or these particular customs, all these things are different. And but we, within the ideas of white-centered consciousness and this kind of Eurocentricity and white supremacy, it has it that everything must fall under one ideal, one particular category, or we must categorize it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. It must be destroyed, because I can't have this exist without me knowing what it is or me understanding it. Or actually me choosing to understand it, right? So this is the kind of things that we've been battling against.
Okay.
On a global landscape for
and many. Then we also, I'm sorry, let me cut you across. I want to share this. Sister Lisa just shared this. And she just tagged us on this post. And see, this is the stuff when I say when did African lives not matter? So apparently there's a medical service called Dispatch Health that is offering in-home COVID services to white communities in Essex County. and not to black zip codes.
This is county New Jersey.
So things like this happen all the time. So we'll service, and this is 2020. This is not like, and this is also a pandemic. So this is a conversation of health, public health for all people, because we can be 100% clear that if this rash hit the ground like the Spanish flu or the black freaking plague or some shit, it's not going to skip white folks' house. I'm just here to tell you. I don't care how many guns you have, how you board up your windows. It's not going to skip them. Okay, so I don't understand why they think they should give service to one group and not another group, because if anybody gets sick, everybody has a potential to be sick.
Right.
So for public health purposes, a strategic decision would be to provide adequate support to everyone, right? But no. So this is another conversation as to when we've been indoctrinated that African lives don't matter and when did it occur? Because it occurs when we see high towers coming up and big gardens coming up and you know, juicing places coming up. I remember back in the 80s, we were screaming out at the grocery store with lettuce in the window there, with maggots crawling out the ham, bologna in the window right there in the butcher shop. This is in the 80s. And then here go Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. You look at it right now, and you can't even like connect to it. So then we talk about we're trying to close the wealth gap. Why? How are we trying to close the wealth gap? Because the same individuals that moving into these communities, when you building all these high-rise and concierge buildings and gardens and juice bars and thrift shops that you bring in for white people, because these are the kinds of things you're creating a cultural experience for them to come in and feel comfortable, so that the things that's in their space, that they like the things that are in their space, because these are the things that they're accustomed to. Right. And you know what, African people, black folks, we don't care about y'all because y'all are used to scraps. We're going to continue to throw y'all scraps. See, and then when this white woman says to me, oh, well, black people can be successful in white society, I looked at her like she was out of her rabbit ass mind. How? And why would you even say some foolishness like this? This tends to believe that white society is the standard.
Right. Well, when you say American, you mean white. But that's the conversation that people don't want to have. When people don't want to say that, they say white.
Right.
And then any other time when everyone else is considered American is a means to stifle off the conversation of racism and bigotry. Right. Oh, everybody's American. There's no racial injustice doesn't exist. I saw this actually in comment section from a white guy. For some reason, these white guys who have these thoughts always love black shades and like baseball caps.
Yeah, they always hide in their face. They trifling.
It's always weird. But like, there's no racial injustice. Everybody's American. Yeah, everybody's American until you're the cops at their door and shooting up their door without a warrant.
Woman in the bed.
Everyone's American until you turn in your corner and you feel like you need to say something or pull out a gun on a black person because they're running in your neighborhood. Everyone's American until you get to put your knee on a black man's neck for as long as you want, and no one do anything. 8 minutes and 46 seconds
as a life leaves his body with no remorse, with no feeling. Nothing pulls at your heart. Nothing happens to you. And then we talk about Crash with Lorenz Tate working with the quote unquote liberal white cop who's his buddy all the whole time. And then when the shit gets thick, he shows up in the car digging in his chest for his saint. So he can say, oh, officer, he got the same saint sitting on his dashboard. He's digging in his chest to show him the saint that he has the same one. But you know what? The looming. He actually the looming fear, not that you're human, not that you're a person like me, not that I'm intimately connected with you, not that I'm loving on you as a human being, but like that I'm always suspect of you, that you might just flip the script on any given day, of psychosis that has been strategically threaded into the white psyche to the point where it is fundamental a part of the DNA code at all times. Doesn't matter. It's only a matter of time before somebody white turns on you. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who's not trustworthy. When African people don't have a history of being distrustworthy towards white folks. In fact, white people only have been embraced by white people by black people to the detriment of Africans. Over and over again. Over and over. This is what history tells us. History tells us this. History tells us that you should actually suspect white folks. They shouldn't be suspecting you. But you know what this cop did? When he thought he was digging for a gun, he pulled out a gun, he shot him in the chest. And then dragged Lorenz Tate's body to the dirt and discarded his body because now he need to cover his own ass and his career. He's a cop. I'm just saying, when did African lives not matter? And how did we become indoctrinated to African lives not mattering in our everyday social living experience? And I'm having conversations with African people, and for some reason they're baffled. They still don't know how to get unstuck from this situation.
They really don't.
They don't know how to get unstuck.
And they pull everything out, other cards they can to either deviate from the conversation or just not have the conversation at all, or stay in this aloof space of thinking. Like, no, you have no time for that. There's no space for that. You need to be with this conversation. We've been essentially coddled in this idea of like, well, of a post-racial America for so long. We've been coddled by the idea of a black president. We've been coddled by the idea that there's more black faces in TV and more black faces on posters, and now you have dark-skinned women with big fros and curly fros on posters, and it's all good. They had look, they're posing together with the bearded white guy on the poster, on every poster it seems, and everything is all well and good. Racism is over now because of this H&M ad. Like, no, like. Just because Banana Republic has an ad with this white woman hugging up on this black dude, is the darkest skinned dude you can find, right? And him in a car with 3 white women or what have you, like all of a sudden all is well and good. It's okay. No, be clear once again. These are performative gestures to soothe any form of revolutionary tactic of the African in the face of a system that has continually tried to break us. And what is this?
And then I just watched a movie called Troop Zero with Viola Davis, and she's got the biggest afro known to man. Afro. She got the real big 1970s. I'm gonna get you sucker afro.
Isn't it placed in the 70s?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it is. It's a period piece. It does show up like kind of old schooly-ish, trailer parky-ish, kind of sort of. She's smoking and she calling the little kids boo, and they got quote unquote what is it? You might want to say a queer kid. I think he's probably about 10 years old. They got the little queer boy who does hair, and he's in the group. They got the girl who's missing an eye. They have the other one who wets the bed, and they got the little black girl who looks like a little mixed girl. They call her Hell No.
She just angry
because she beats everybody's asses, and she got some muscle called Smash. Smash is a muscle. She look like she might be Mexican. So Smash and Hell No roll together.
It's the misfits of society, right?
Yeah, they're representing the misfits, almost like the Little Rascals kind of thing.
Yeah, that's
kind of concept. Like Little Rascals updated with girls instead of boys. And they're to be these birdies. They want to enter this contest because one of them, the main character, her mom passed away, and her dad told her that she lives among the stars. So this scientist from NASA is coming to this community to work with this something like the little this Girl Scouts, what they're called the birdies, and they're going to have a jamboree where they're going to have a contest, and whoever wins the contest is going to be able to put their voices on this record that's going to be played by the satellite in space. So she thinks she's going to be able to talk to her mom. So now she gets the crew together. It's a cute, feel good, warm your heart. Oh, it's so adorable. I watched it. I like those kinds of shows, but I can also read between the lines and also see what's not being said. But it was cute. Again, Viola Davis smoking cigarettes the whole time. The regular attitude, snappy, whatever. And she called little girls boo. Yeah, y'all my boos, and y'all gonna win. Like she's talking and she's talking about her story of her mattering conversation and how she didn't go to law school because, she's black and they were making fun of her and, and all that. She missed her life because she spent time worried about what people thought about her. Right. So that's a whole regular everyday narrative of the African experience in America. And it's important that we stop, and we're so caught up in coddling ourselves and our own circumstances that we miss the fact that there's strength in numbers. And it's gotten so bad to the point where I personally can clock folks. I can clock them in and clock them out. It's so insanely, it's almost like the Twilight Zone. I can clock in when people are going to start being dishonest, when they're going to start being vague, when they're going to start, if they're not blatantly just out of pocket. If they're not blatantly out of pocket within 3 months, gradually they go through these phases of being dishonest, vague, manipulative, trying to pull a fast one. It's so much easier to me to just be honest and straight up. Say what you mean what you say. Let's come to an agreement. Why not? Why hide behind deception? And I realize a lot of people are dealing with insecurity. So when did African lives not matter? How did this occur? What did we do to become indoctrinated to the fact that we among ourselves don't matter? I'm not a fan of this work. I live this work. So I'm not impressed by nothing other than getting results, period. And I see your results in the people you touch. That's where your results are. How many people are woke and in action as a result of your work? That's all that matters to me. Because everything else are just dots in between. We need critical mass, African. We need active people. We need people to start standing up and speaking the truth. I'm in the matrix. I put this work on. So I go into spaces and I have to deal with when they start talking about we live in a post-racial America. No, the fuck we don't. Because I have to go in here and talk to these white folks about something that somebody else in the white space has done to mistreat me. And now I got these white folks curtailing my effort, curtailing me.
Actually,
because white folks,
most racial America. That's what.
Okay, this is the most racial America. This is not post-racial America. I got African folks, black folks, not standing on my back, not holding my back up. Just to go to the HR department, a department, talk about this white man, this white Jewish man. White man happens to be Jewish, her boss, making a joke about her hair, her natural hair, in the middle of this meet, creating a hostile working environment for 3 straight years. This girl used to call me on the phone crying. She didn't want me to come up there and mediate for her because I don't play the radio. That boss, he would have probably tried to fire her if I'd have came up there and had a word with her. And I'm not going to the black and no eyes. I'm just not taking no prisoners. And you're going to change your behavior because I don't appreciate your tone. And I think African people need to have an intermediary to come in but you know what white folks do? They make you buy by their system. If you want to have a mediator, you have to have a lawyer as a mediator. You have to have a lawyer as your mediator because you know what white folks do? When you come in their face and you don't have your ducks lined up, they try to intimidate you and they still can't intimidate me because I know it's all a joke. It's all a joke. You can't stand in my face. I got folks they gotta talk low when they talk to me. They gotta whisper and talk real low when they talk to me because I'm not here for the foolishness. See, but you know what they got? If it ever comes in a big forum, now we got to go in a courtroom. They have law and they got a big bench to back them up with their foolishness. They got legislation that they put in your face. They shove it in your face to legitimize it. It's all foolishness. It's all foolishness. It's some crap that they put together for their club and they claim that they did it because they want to keep order. And you participated. I don't see order. I don't see things in order. I don't see things in harmony. And I see a lot of detriment to the earth. I see detriment to the air. I see detriment to the food. I see detriment to the health of the community, of the population, of the people. I see medical apartheid. This is what I'm seeing on the cusp of white-centered consciousness. I'm not seeing good things. It's fine. You talk about, cesarean sections and breakthroughs in science, and breakthroughs in cancer research. Why? There wasn't huge amounts of cancers 2,000, 4,000 years ago in Africa. So what has changed? Environmental. They were doing surgeries back in Africa. They were doing surgeries. Imhotep was doing surgeries in Egypt. We good with the scientific breakthroughs. I don't need to give you big applause for John Hopkins. I don't need to. Because I already know what we got working with over here in this African consciousness. I know what we got working with. Do you know what we have working with? You're too easily impressed. When did African lives not matter? And how did we become indoctrinated to the fact that our lives don't matter? Not even to each other. They called these young folks super predators. And you know what they did? They also, 25 years ago, they built more jails. They privatized prisons. See, this is how the system works. They layer. They built more prisons. They came out with this theory. They petrified white folks. Everybody jumped out there. They came out with privatized prison. They started building more prison. They started offering these little small communities jobs. And then they just decided to take all of the kids of the kids of the kids from the crack era and the heroin era and throw them in jail. They wasn't super predators. What they should have been doing was hitting the ground with therapy, with intervention. Because you need to know that after you done cracked out all of their parents, and a whole lot of these crack parents were having children. So their kids probably going to be out here unruly, maybe out of control, Maybe they have certain biophysiological deficits causing them to have a lack of emotional tolerance. Yeah, that's quite possible. I wouldn't call them super predators. I wouldn't demonize anything African. But you know what? Because you're talking about the round table needing to now spend money to provide support for the mess that they created when it was intentional with the government decided to infuse drugs, crack into African communities.
Right.
That was an intention. Somebody did that on purpose. That wasn't a guess. Right. That wasn't an accident. That was a whole group of white men decided that we're going to put crack in inner city communities.
And then call the war on drugs when you crack down in those communities.
And we're going to use that money and we're going to fuel the war in Nicaragua, cause problems over there with those people, those indigenous people, right? Those brown people, those diasporic Africans, right? That's what we're going to do with them. We're going to have a war on them because we want something that they have. And we're going to fund it with these people's blood, sweat, death, turf wars, bodies laying on the street in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. All of these things are connected. You know who's responsible for this? White-centered consciousness. White-centered consciousness is responsible for that. And African, you need to be facing that. When you're skinning and grinning, you need to know what you're talking about. You know what you're doing.
Right. Now, and that's what, again, is talking. What I was talking about earlier around like looking at the roots. We so busy. We stay busy with the outcome and not understanding the root causes of these issues. Now, where we hold each other heavy, we deal with each other with a hard, a hard staff. Looking at black on black crime and all this and that, and like, if we just did this and that, yes, that's really well and good. We all have choices we can make in our lives. We all have things that we need to deal with. We all have stuff that we need to own up to. Absolutely, as that does assist the destruction of our people. But we can't. We also can't discredit that it also comes from some place that's by design. That unfortunately, the result is many of our people succumb to that, and that became a vice, right? And it became a means to destroy from within, but you cannot say that that's not by design by any means. To now, where like the design was, let's push us along a little bit. All right, they get the wheel going themselves. All right, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to touch it now. They're the ones that's pushing this thing along, and as long as we get them pushing it along far enough, then we can opt out and absolve ourselves from any type of involvement in this. Well, you guys, you're taking the drugs, you guys are doing the crime, and look, you're killing each other, and then we validate these things in front of these people that created the system in the first place. We're on these platforms and in front of these spaces talking about, well, black people do this and black people do that, in these white spaces, in spaces that actually by lineage have created these residual effects. And further validate the consciousness of, right, well, I feel justified now because they think it's wrong. So yeah, let them deal with it then. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to apologize for my ancestors. I don't have to apologize for what's happening in the black community. I didn't have any involvement in that. Maybe that was my great grand uncle or what have you. Hell, maybe it's my uncle. I don't know, but I didn't do it. Mm-hmm. No, that doesn't work. Because we all play a role in the now of how that gets to be created, how we can shift those issues in humanity. As long as we continue to not take responsibility for our actions, whether they be our direct actions or actions by virtue of our lineage, because we benefit from the residuals of that. Mm-hmm. You either benefit from it or you're what's the word? Your life is because you're a recipient of it, right? You're a recipient of whatever the traumas, either the benefits or the trauma. Exactly.
That's right.
You're a recipient of the benefit or the trauma of that lineage, regardless of what you've done in the now. You're either benefactor. You're a benefactor, or you receive the trauma from it, right? Which is generally the African. The benefit is the white, what you call the white liberal now, or anybody that benefits from white-centered consciousness and the white being.
But you know something too? They white-centered consciousness, it benefits from what happened to African people, but they have yet to catalog the catastrophic effects of this on themselves.
The magnitude, yeah.
Is catastrophic.
Because it causes a disconnect and rift from them actually connecting to the fact that this something needs to be done in order to heal humanity. Because as long as there's a rift in you dealing with other human beings
this way,
then humanity will not get to where it needs to be as a whole space.
But see, it would be a white man who thinks that ain't necessary. Because first of all, they say men aren't supposed to feel deeply. They're supposed to make clinical and surgical decisions. So that's a whole nother
Machismo,
conversation. Machismo and hard decisions. And I don't see men making no hard decisions. I see them being cowards, in fact. Because the reality of it is you'd have dealt with this situation long before it became an ass to bite you in the ass. Because you should have known it was going to come back eventually. Things just don't stay the same. They said change and death is absolutely going to happen.
Right.
There's no way around it. So they should have prepared for this. And and see a lot of what's happening here in America. And I don't know because I'm using all of these different faculties and I'm making all these different assessments. But I'm here to tell you that 99.99% of what's happening in America. Listen, let me gamble. Let's just see if this will work. It's trial and error.
Yeah.
It has been trial and error for 200 years.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
You riding along. You need to be in trial and error too. You need to be trying some shit, switch it up. Trying some shit, switch it up. Trying some shit. You need to stop going back to the same door, knocking on the same door.
They want to see how far they can push envelopes.
Something different. Expecting their change, doing the same thing, expecting to change is the definition of insanity. And I mean, in a very profound, Dr. Umar says in a very profound way, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing talks about the condition of African people. We are out of our minds.
Yeah.
We out of our African minds. And part of the reason why we are out of our African minds is because we are African people wearing white-centered consciousness. And we are warring within ourselves on a daily basis.
Doing imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome running rampant.
Code switching.
It is such a deep impediment to rich relationships. Imposter syndrome.
The code switching, and of doing these things that we feel that we think will bring us peace within the society.
Peace and protection. That's all we said. We're searching for peace and protection.
So we're not even looking for peace in terms of strengthening our sense of self-identity. We're looking for peace in terms of I just don't want to be bothered by this anymore.
Yes.
I just want to feel like I can go home to my whatever the fuck I have and just deal and cope until I die.
Yeah.
That's where we're at with it, rather than thriving with the good time for the moment, what the matrix you have to offer, until you have to deal with the impending doom of rent or bills, whatever the case may be, or if you get your residual come up of I got my riches, but now you lost touch with family. You have to compromise a bit of who you are to get more riches and to get in the deeper doors. And now you're down a rabbit hole of what white-centered consciousness has created within the system and capitalism. Versus finding a deeper connection with yourself, which trumps any reward that you can possibly actually think of. When you're at peace with yourself and in authentic camaraderie with self, there's nothing that can penetrate the power in that. But yeah, we've succumbed to this idea of like I just want to be because this is easier than fighting to be myself. Then we're going to be all messed up for a very long time. And then there's such thing as
authentic change.
Yeah.
Where's the authentic change?
Absolutely. Peace and blessings, Sister Melody Queen. We see you. Thank you for joining the conversation. We appreciate all of us joining the conversation. Please share the link. Please share your thoughts. We do appreciate your thoughts, family. We love that you watch, but we also appreciate your thoughts and sharing with us as well.
Interaction. When did we become? When did African lives not matter, and how do we become indoctrinated to this? How do we become indoctrinated to this?
How do we stand first and foremost in believing wholeheartedly that African lives do matter? Right?
How do we perpetuate that?
Beyond rhetoric, beyond displays, beyond performative actions. What does it mean? What will it take for us to be in a space where African lives actually do matter on all fronts? Not just in the face of police brutality, but in the face of the residual outcomes that happen within our communities, in the face of indoctrinated self-hatred, in the face of these systemic beliefs that have infused our culture, so to speak, to the point where it's not enough for us to just to actually fight it, but it's enough for us to be mad about it and go about our merry way and deal with it all over again.
Because they know that's all we're gonna do.
That's all we're gonna do. We're gonna complain about it and then keep it moving.
About the strategic plan,
like us a rock in our shoe.
The strategy.
Yeah. No one think about strategy.
How do you implement the strategy? Where is the strategy? What would be a viable strategy for the African to recover itself and sovereignty and capture as many people as possible with as little casualties as possible? That's the question of 2021.
Exactly.
That's the question.
And that's what we want to break free of things. Sorry,
No.
And that's what we need to break free of things of like I said again, like we can protest and we can say all these things, but we actually have to come with our demands and our why and how do we break free of what the Matrix has been offering us. Period. Because as long as we keep doing the round robin and the rigmarole of yelling and then going to, I don't know, go get a burger and then let's go about our merry way and then go complain about it again, nothing's going to happen and nothing's going to change for us within the system. Protests have changed some things, yes, if you protest loud enough, right? But this has some action to come along with it. What is the change you want? Did it change what you actually wanted? It may have changed something socially, but did it change what you actually wanted? What was actually on the list of agendas for African in America? On the agenda of what we would need to peacefully and justly and equitably coexist in this space. And if it is not aligned with our coexistence and humanity and respect and dignity within this space, then what is our next residual step? How do we get in a staunch place of then we need to leave and create something new? And a lot of people want to be in the conversation of leaving. Nope. People always want to be like, well, I put my blood and sweat and tears. Like, no, you didn't. Your ancestor did. No, you ain't do nothing. You do nothing, you here. And the only time you want to bring it up is when a vote comes. The only time you want to bring it up is when you're mad about something. No, your ancestors did the work, but they were fighting to be free. They weren't fighting to keep the land. They're fighting to be free. There's strangers in this land. You built this land, yes. We want to be free, period. Free from oppression, free from someone has a feeling of superiority, have their necks on their foot on our necks, get off our backs. We want to be free to be. Doesn't matter where the land is. I don't want to live inside of white home is anywhere. Home is anywhere.
I don't want to live inside of white center consciousness. I feel like I'm going crazy inside of white
Don't get it screwed up. Don't get it screwed up.
I feel like I'm out of my mind trying to finagle inside of white center consciousness.
Right.
And guess what? I decided that I wasn't going to finagle.
Right.
But there's a whole lot of African folks walking around here wearing crazy, wearing madness every day, wearing disgust and trying to cover it up with a nice smile and a new weave. They trying to put all kind of stacks on top of it and gold grills and throw swag all day trying to mask madness. You're trying to fit a round African into a square hole.
Stop wearing your African.
You trying to wear your round African and put yourself into a square white space, and it's just not working. And you walking around here, the makers of crazy, the makers of crazy, and I have to really dial them up like this. I gotta be on my levels with them. I can take for so much. That's enough. Have a seat. I have to sideline you for a while. Get your mind right.
Go to the bench.
You're on the bench. Not playing, not taking no prisoners, and not fooling around with this, because this is not a game. This is our life. This is our children's lives. I'm not going to leave my children with what was given to me. Go to school, get a good job.
No.
Go to school, get a good job, pray, lay on your knees, and beg for the Lord in prayer. Grandma said, leave it at the cross. How that's helpful? I'm not giving that foolishness to my kids. I'm not leaving the earth with that foolishness with these children.
No.
Why would I do that? That didn't work for me. How is it going to work for somebody else? Unless you're willfully ignorant. And let me tell you what, ignorance is bliss. And there's a whole lot of folks living ignorantly bliss out here in these streets. And guess what, African? They're a detriment to the movement.
Yeah.
Them happiness, ignorance is bliss folks. You're going to have to deal with them one day. One of the elders, Elder Kareem, said, if they don't come on board, you're going to have to see them. No. Brother Allende said that. If you don't get them on part, you're going to have to see them one day.
Mm-hmm.
If the revolution hit the ground, if you're not one of us, you are one of them. So if you're not down, you're going to have to see them.
But the Kwame Ture says the same thing.
Yes.
Bring your, all the people, whether they're the coon and whatever you want to call it, they are peoples.
Get up.
Listen, they are peoples. So we got to try to do our best to bring them in.
Try to get them.
But if they don't want to bring them in, off them. That's it. They got to be off. Anybody has a detriment to African liberation, they got to be off.
They got to deal with them.
Period. And that may sound drastic or whatever, but we're in drastic times.
It is what it is.
Right? Harry would have off some folks too.
She just stretched them right on out, them right on out, because anybody got time for your foolishness.
We've consistently seen betrayal. Brother Malcolm saw betrayal. The Black Panther saw betrayal.
Everybody.
But we've seen betrayal and what it has done in our lifetime. Tupac saw betrayal. Okay, so let's be clear.
Baba Wale made a post the other day, and I was just so captivated by every time he makes a post. I just gotta, every now and again, I gotta get in there and find out, get a good word or what have you. And he's talking about, this whole selflessness. Where you got people with selflessness at? I don't see it. A lesson of selflessness. I can't even read the whole post, it's just too much. But in effect, is the balance between taking care of self-preservation and being committed to the community. Self-preservation, first rule of nature. I cannot personally pour from an empty cup. However, if it ever came a day where I needed to put myself in a situation where it's either I'm gonna sign this deal and I'm gonna shoot poison to my community, or I'm just gonna have to eat cheese and bread and live in integrity and not feed this poison to my community, I don't care if somebody else gonna sign that deal and take that deal. I don't care. That's them. Mm-hmm. That's them, and that's their karma, and they got to deal with that. Because trust me, I'm gonna have to eat cheese and bread every day. I will find a way to live in integrity. I'm not going to feed poison to my community for my come up. Okay? And there are many of us who do it every day. Mm-hmm. You either exploit yourself or your people. That's it. That's the only way you're coming up in the matrix. I made a post the other day. Dave Chappelle was in front and said he went to visit a high school and he told the kids, well, you better get to entertaining white folks or selling dope. If I've never seen it done any other way. If you want to come up in this matrix, you got two choices. Sell dope or get to entertaining white folks. That is what I consider a limiting belief. Because that limiting belief means that you have to succumb to madness in order for you to get your come up. And this is where so many Africans, this is why they can't think outside of it. This is why they can't think on lines of what sovereignty means for African community. Because they're waiting for white-centered consciousness to give them a doorway. They're waiting for white-centered consciousness to provide an arrow. Oh, you want African-centered consciousness? Go that way. You want to get out of oppression? You don't want to be oppressed? You don't want to be at the bowels or the bottom of the you want to eat, you don't want to drink in a trough with the pig slop? Yeah, you don't want to do that?
Drape demonia?
Oh, guess what? You don't want drape demonia? You're trying to get free from the matrix? Oh, hold on, go that way. Knock on that door right there, tell them I sent you. That's what our people are waiting for.
Good luck.
That's what our people are waiting for. Our people are saying, you know what? African people, y'all done been through so much. We done did so much dirt to y'all. We done stole all y'all stuff. Man, go on over there and get free. No. That's what we waiting for. And they keep adding new elements to division every couple of weeks. Every few weeks, they add new elements of division. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you noticed it, but we're talking about the African diaspora. But everybody is not talking African diaspora. There's Africans from all over these countries everywhere. And right now, the dark-skinned African is now on an uptick. So I'm talking about Sudanese Africans.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like, to me, and honestly, like, and this is just my personal
it's feelings, a social trend. It's attention to the social trend.
Exactly. Thank you. That's what I was getting to. Was that, like, it feels performative. Mm-hmm. It feels like, here's a piecemeal. It is. Like the dark skin. Okay, let's bring the dark skin up now.
It is.
Then when the dark skin people are happy, then all right, they won't go back to just fucking.
Then they'll just suddenly, because this happened before. This was the era when Biggie Smalls, when Wesley Snipes, when
it's an ebb and flow.
When it's ebb and flow, family. Denzel Washington, Biggie Smalls, Wesley Snipes, Omar, all of them was getting it. Who was the other Tyrese,
Morris Chestnut,
Tay Diggs, Morris Chestnut. They was getting the uptick. Who was the women? Women was never really getting it like that.
Vivica Fox, maybe.
Vivica Fox, kind of, sort of, but she
This Grace Jones for a long time.
Grace Jones was in this space in the early 80s. It was Grace Jones. It was Iman,
yeah,
and it was Tyra Banks is not really that dark skin.
Beverly Johnson.
Okay,
no, she's kind of brown.
But just to let you know, it's an ebb and tide, right? Mm-hmm. It's an ebb and tide, and they coddle you, they rock you to sleep, and then you just look away, and then guess what? Here comes the foolishness coming back. It's all, like he said, performative.
So performative.
It's nothing of substance that's going to say, "Hey, that's the door to get free."
But never. What I notice is that it's always like an either or when it comes to the colorism aspect. It's where in that time for those black men, it was like it was what we say Jada Pinkett, it was Tisha Campbell, Martin, the whole light skin thing, the Tyra Banks, all those types of things. And then the dark skinned woman was like the jokey one or whatever, the angry one. And now we've seen kind of a switch where the dark woman is becoming sort of quote unquote softer when you got Lupita and you got the Tika Sumters, you got the woman from Lovecraft Country, the one that played the sister. She started getting a little more talk since that show became a hit. But then now it's like back to the light skinned dudes again. Light skinned dudes is coming, quote unquote, coming back. Trending. It's trending, right?
But they always put that black woman as the jungle.
It's never right, exactly.
Exotic. That's just this is the method. And unfortunately, because you're not conscious that you are inside a white-centered insanity, you're going right along with this. You're right on par with it.
And the problem is because within that is because we refuse to believe, and this is a cognitive, like we're clear that white people have their own cognitive dissonance around just like how they're dealing with the racial experience, and the human experience, white privilege, all that type of stuff. But we don't realize our own cognitive dissonance around this actual how we're dealing with these particular traumas. And we refuse to believe that a system could be this diabolical to where it could be this intricate on this many levels. These type of pieces. Imagine like 1,000-piece puzzle, and every single piece of that puzzle has a meaning and has a piece to it that is about your detriment of you in the face of the matrix. We cannot believe that every single piece is part of it. No, not all of it. Not all of it has to be. No, something has to be. No, every single piece, down to the blatant racism and police brutality in front of your face on a police cam, to the subtleties of having the dark-skinned black woman in the ad with the white guy all the time. This is about like interracial, whatever. This is about the visuals, the dynamics that they're creating for you around the mindset that now this can't happen. Now the black family ideology cannot happen anymore because this is how you end racism, right? And these type of dynamics, or the lighter skinned woman that had the curly hair and she's deemed as the black friend in all the shows now. These particular dynamics, we refuse to believe that these are still rooted in racial injustice that exist, the white-centered consciousness that has us in constant division, and the refusal to believe that division exists within white-centered consciousness. Whether or not even white people themselves believe in it, it's there, right? Division is in it. We even talk about the peace sign. Comedic peace is having two fingers together, peace, keeping oneness, whereas you see the division and destruction introduced by the European centered consciousness is split. So what does peace look like exactly for the African? So it's a scary thing to think of how big this onion is, because this onion has so many layers to peel back. And this is what we're facing. So rather than deal with it, we would rather just deal with just enough layers, maybe the top 2 layers. But all right, that's enough. I'm gonna lay down. I'm gonna lay down with Scandal or watch Grey's Anatomy or whatever other thing that's lighthearted.
Something that can just rock us to sleep because we don't want to be responsible for dealing with our circumstance. And you know something? It's because of all the noise, all the busying, all the research, all the taking it in and processing it and then going to work the next day. And then you have to come out of it from being an emotional experience. You have to come out of it from being something that's happening to you personally. Yes, these things have happened to me personally. I have personally experienced circumstance in my community, and I've personally been on the receiving end of self-hatred towards our people. I know for a fact what the ramification and what the runoff is in our behavior and the impediment in having rich, authentic, and connected relationships within our community. I know what that is. And I am the catalyst to create these things. So I'm not just waiting for life to happen. I'm actually in action to create these types of outcomes in our lives, and we still having difficulty with it.
Don't let life happen.
We're still having the greatest difficulty with just maintaining basic manners. I'm not even saying, I don't even have to go African. Don't even go African yet. I'm talking about basic manners, basic everyday human to human etiquette. We're having difficulty with this. And this is a direct result of the circumstance that we've lived in and the fact that we've been enculturated this way. Because we're not trained to love each other because we're living inside of white center consciousness. And inside of white center consciousness, African lives don't matter. Even to African people, because African people are wearing white center consciousness, unbeknownst to themselves.
Because that's the reward.
But that's the reward because you got to be agreeable. And most of us make sure that we're agreeable. We go to great lengths even without even being invited, even without being asked. We go to great lengths to accommodate white center consciousness, white people. Don't let Karen start crying. Oh shit, if Karen start bawling, the whole office would stop. Everybody running with a tissue. Problem. But let that black woman have an issue. Y'all ready to judge her, condemn her, hang her to slick. Cut her head off. Send her to the guillotine. Mm-hmm. This is how we treat each other. We're not coming to the rescue for our own brothers and sisters. Never. I had a circumstance at work. I went to people that had already sat at my table for the course of this long, needing my help, and I'm giving them. People who've received direct support from me. A situation arose 9-10 months down the line. And I said, you know something, do you mind? No, I don't want to have nothing to do with that. Mm. To my face, straight up. Mm. Period, point blank. And it wasn't black man, black woman. It was black man, black woman, black woman. In my face. I'm here to tell you they're from the diaspora. None of them were African-American black. The one person that did come through for me was an African-American black woman. There's something to be said about this case study. This particular situation is a case study because I'm a solution-based thinker. All 5 of these people, 4 of which were from the African diaspora. Random circumstance occurs where I need these people to simply not vouch for me, not advocate for me, but simply say what you saw. That's it. Because I know people that have issues, a lot of people don't have the type of courage. They've never been taught how to be advocates. In the Matrix, there are no advocates in the African community. Africans must keep their head down. They must not look up. They must not embolden themselves in front of white center consciousness. They always keep their head down. And you know who knows that best? Africans from the diaspora. Mm.
That's how you
the one African that came and stepped up was an African from America. And it was very difficult for her to actually, the situation ended up becoming even more dire from when I initiated a year prior. The ask was simply for a statement of you just saying what you saw. I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's my paper. That's all you had to do. You didn't advocate for me. You didn't speak on my behalf. You simply said, this is what I saw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. But if you say what you saw, that was implications in that. But they didn't want to be bothered with that because they're not going to put their ass on the line for my black ass. But they were willing to sit at my desk for 10 months, every now and again, stopping by to get something from my well. There's something here in that. And we deal with this every day. And as I've stated, I'm not allowing life to happen to me. I initiate circumstances. Period. Because I'm guiding, because this is what I want to create. This is what I want to get out. You're not just willy-nilly and all up in my life and doing whatever you want to do up in here. Because African people are not accustomed to self-advocating because we're not taught that way.
We ain't even told that we're
not in a safe space. We shouldn't have to advocate.
Yeah.
Because we should be in a safe space. But since our quality of life has been offended, a strategic move would be to learn to self-advocate.
And we're at the point where even when you talk about having a safe space, is that when we do actually come across safe spaces, we don't even make them safe for ourselves. Because we're so used to the idea that we have to make passage for white center consciousness that we even let that come into these spaces that we're safe for the African to be. That we have to do to let them know that they're not co-conspiring against whiteness or what have you. Because God forbid my coin is messed up. No. Because you wouldn't want to be in a space where you're advocating for your safety, your identity should not have to matter to the space that's providing you your coin or whatever the case may be. That should not be the threat. That should not be the carrot hanging in front of you as a mule. You should be able to be as courageous enough and as again staunch in your position as a person, as a human, as an African in your identity, an African self, no matter where you are in this planet. Be in the space to be, period, without that being disrupted by some outside force telling you if you get X, Y, and Z and come with me, then it'll be all good. Because it won't be all good. It'll be all bad and all good for them. Because now you become product. to help the business and the cog move along in the machine. No, break free of the machine.
I posted one thing in here. I don't know if it's going to show up, but you want to read Marimba Ani's book, Yurugu, an African-centered critique of European cultural thought and behavior. Yurugu. I put it in the chat down there for you guys to take a look at that book. It's kind of necessary reading. I'm here to tell you it's a lot, and it's very it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to contemplate some of it, but at the end of the day is we need as African people to break free of white is right. You need to be able to have an assessment regardless. It shouldn't be black or white. It should be an assessment based on what's in the benefit of the greatest good of the African. Ultimately, whatever benefits the greatest good of the African is going to ultimately benefit the greatest good of humanity, right? You not being able to make an assessment of your landscape separate and apart from feeling impeded, because the issue here is once you do this research, and this is why so many of us skirt this research. This is why we rather watch TV, go to concerts, and put our fucking girl dress on, because it doesn't require for us to stand and use skills that we don't have. We don't have skills of self-advocacy. We don't have skills in critical thinking. I have conversations with people on a regular basis. It takes them 2 weeks to respond to me. They got to go do research to give me an answer on something that I asked them that was, to me, elementary.
And it don't even be still an
It's not even in depth. It's not in depth. It's nothing. But it's not a diss. I don't need to rain on you. I'm an academic. I'm a teacher. I'm a natural instructor by designation. So I'm here for the space. If you need clarity, ask the question. There's no embarrassment here. At the end of the day, we're all in the learning curve. I'm in the learning curve. You're in the learning curve. We're constantly in the learning curve because this matrix is a labyrinth and it's always shifting. Dr. Neely Fuller, United Compensatory Code System, says that if you don't understand the matrix, and this is Dr. Francis Cress Welsing quote says, if you don't understand white supremacy, what it is, how it functions, everything else you think you know will only confuse you. Neely Fuller created the United Compensatory Code System so that you understand the 9 areas that your life is being impacted by white-centered consciousness and how it has integrated itself almost on a cellular level to the way you think. It even affects how you dream and what you aspire to. This is why African people are constantly running into walls in this matrix and can't find solutions to get out of the labyrinth. So it is constantly a learning curve. But my thing is, be in the freaking business of learning, though. Like, don't be out to lunch. Like, don't be sleep on the job. I say to my son, listen, just expect that people don't want to do their job. Just plan. Unfortunately, in this matrix, my life experience has taught me that 99.9% of the time people don't. And listen, this is not my research. There's research I was in the world. I presented to one of my students back one year, 2014, 2015, 2016. The articles in Wall Street Journal says 90% of Americans are unhappy with their jobs. Period. 90% of Americans do jobs they don't like to do. Only 10% of people are blessed to be able to do the job that they want to do, that engages them, that they're happy doing, and that they feel a need to do initiative to do the job well. For me, I don't fall in either or, whether the job or not like or dislike. I'm always doing my skills and I'm offering it to the job because I'm going to do whatever job I'm doing. And let me tell you, I've done everything from stood in front of a classroom and to adult learners, to pump gas, to drove a taxi cab, to was a short order cook, was a correctional officer and a banker. I've done all types of jobs. And every single job I've ever done, I've always done it to 125% because I'm in service to humanity above all.
Right. There's integrity with yourself, with who you are.
I'm in integrity with me. I'm standing in integrity with my rhetoric. That it doesn't matter. I'm still in service to people.
Right.
Human beings, people who have lives, who have families, who have aspirations, who are taking care of their mothers, who are sick, who are receiving cancer treatments, who are nursing a baby, who just came out the hospital, who just had surgery, who is back on the job, who just got a promotion, who just graduated from college. I am in service to people, peopling, doing people things, living their lives. So when I see people slacking on how they do their job, it's a reality, and it's indicative to the fact that, one, white-centered consciousness is madness. There's no order in it. But unfortunately, because you as an African have not decided that you want to create order in your own life, I realize that most of us we got madness in our own lives.
It's crazy.
So this is how do we become indoctrinated to African lives don't matter? And why are we perpetuating this in our own community? How do we rewrite this consciousness? What are the things that we need to put into our systems of behaviors that will make us different so that we could create order? And first of all, create mental health, African mental health, mental wellness. Because that's the biggest reason why we have disorder in our personal lives and everything else. And every time we interact with people, I interact with people, I have to dial them up.
Yeah.
I got to back them up because I can't let their madness come into my life. It's infectious.
Yeah. And we look at it, and we've been conditioned to look at it weird when we step into those spaces. Like when you bring up the mental health, and it brings to mind this thing that came up this week with this artist. We look at Black artists in entertainment, like sort of rappers and things like that. A young artist named NLE Choppa, things like 22 or something like that, young kid. And he's been recently, apparently, he came in the game on, the whole like typical, young, bang, shoot 'em up, young gangster stuff, all that, guns and stuff like that. But recently had a consciousness shift over the past, year or so. He's been, posting more consciousness in the space and in the elevation, what have you. And he recently called out the industry for one of his fellow rappers who I've seen in interviews a couple of years back, where he's just completely doped up on drugs. Whatever drug he's taking, it's just to the point where he's like nodding off in the middle of the interview with a lollipop in his mouth. I don't know if anyone that know drug behaviors know what that means, then whatever, let me know. But he's nodding off.
Lollipop?
Yeah, I feel like that's
the
associated with
that's the junkie
nod off. Right?
That's that junkie nod off look right there.
And he's doing this in interviews, right? And this is years ago. This is about maybe 2-3 years ago. I've seen this kid do this, and it's like, what is happening, right? And we were talking about good counsel in your space, especially in the industry, and who's running the industry. So anyway, he's calling the industry like, look, I don't know what needs to happen. I'm not trying to get anybody's business, but calling out the label, by the way, which is run by Kevin Lyles and some other Black folks. So get it together. Y'all see what's happening to Homeboy. How about y'all give him some help and stop letting him go out like this?
I don't care.
Especially in the wake of, you got all these young rappers that have died from drug overdoses, or
they don't care.
Juice WRLD and all these other people, like these artists are dying. We lost 2 young artists within a week's time frame a few weeks ago from the street stuff.
2 months
from the street stuff, yes. And so when do we get to stand up in a way? I want to give a shout out to to the young brother NLE Choppa. I don't know if and that's what I say. The part of me is like, we tend to not believe. Like I want to believe that this is something that's a lasting space that he's in, because it'll be a beautiful thing. And if he can counteract the ills of the system, and if he's going to be part of that shift in movement for the young generation, God bless him. And I wish him Godspeed. But it's important that more of us take up onus to stand for our brothers and sisters in the face of the system that does not want us well. They just want us to continue to be the cogs in the machine to keep it running. Doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter if you're drugged up. Are you selling tickets that people love?
Doesn't matter.
That's it. But we're talking about mental well-being. We're talking about health of our brothers and sisters standing up for it, right? So I want to give a shout out to him for that. And I think that's just, I feel like actually a microcosm of what can really be done within our community, more so publicly and privately, right? To really start the healing process and to push it forward, and with us, right?
That's a journey and a half.
It is a journey and a half, but we got to be willing to take it. We can take everything else. We can go on grueling, fitness regimens and things like that. I want to get summer body. I want to have a hot girl summer. I want to flex on. I want to do all this type of stuff and put energy in that. Why would this journey be towards your African self be any different, right? If you're like, I'm African, well then whatever you were, you sort that shit out. But like, what is it to get into your self identity, your self worth as a human? right? Like get to that. Because right now you allow the space, the external space, to dictate to your humanity and what that gets to look like and what you deserve from the space. That doesn't work. And that's a journey. That's your fitness regimen, right? That's your test. That's your studying. That's your midterm. That's your thesis. That's your dissertation. That's all these things that you put this energy into to please the matrix, to hope that you get some type of candy from the piñata of the matrix, that you can shift that energy into a space that's actually going to be worth something, right? Your degrees and everything don't matter. You got people with master's degrees out here struggling on food pantry line, trying to get something to eat, or wondering when the next check is going to come, if they're even getting a job. Meanwhile, you got people like a Trump who didn't graduate college and other dumb motherfuckers that end up figuring out the finagle around the system, nepotism or whatever the case may be, whiteness, privilege, to be the CEO that those people with 8 master's degrees are working for $15 an hour. This is the system that's set up, system of madness. But once you recognize that and break the code, read the coding on the walls and break free and bend the room, Neo, that's when we can get to the next step of ourselves.
Marinate. Let that sit with you for a minute, okay? We gotta really be clear that peace and blessings is out. Thank you for coming in. Listen, family, share the link during the conversation. Add your comments. So, when did African lives not matter, and how did we as African people become indoctrinated to our own lives not mattering? And that's the conversation for today. And we're trying to look at right now some solutions to what that might look like. Okay, how can we now integrate African wellness? Because first of all, these pitfalls that we fall in, where we have good African mental health, not just good mental health, because being decent in the matrix means that you just don't have to be confronted with circumstances. And we're cultivated inside a white-centered consciousness. White-centered consciousness doesn't take responsibility for certain things. It agrees to nothing. It admits to nothing. It apologizes for nothing.
Damn sure don't admit to nothing.
It doesn't make amends for nothing. And you know what it'll end up doing? It'll play the victim and then make you have to be the one to apologize. That's how diabolical and slick this thing is, that you feel some kind of way about creating safe spaces for yourself and for your own healing and for your own community, but you got to make sure you toe the line so that white-centered conscious doesn't feel rejected or set out because of their behavior and their being. Excuse me? How did that happen? How did you become the person who was the receiving end of all this malice, hatred over centuries of dysfunction heaped on your head, right? And domestic terrorism, bombs dropped 1985 on the movement. Our leaders killed in all efforts for self-efficacy for the African community, thwart by the government. How did you become the person that needs to make sure that Becky feels comfortable, that you're not sitting her out? How did that happen?
Yeah,
that was diabolical.
She can go figure herself out.
That was diabolical. And the fact that you're in that space, you might want to check your own skin. Because that's you and your conscious mind checking your subconscious mind. And you're going to have to grapple with it. That's what I call fighting the beast, wrangling the beast of the darkness. You're going to have to wrangle that beast of the darkness and get that out of there, and so that you can deal with good common sense. Right? You're going to have to deal with that. So that's step number 1, is deal with good common sense and do whatever you need to do to get to that place where you can deal with authentic truth, and that you don't need to be intimidated by John and Jane Q white guy public. Because at the end of the day, that dispatch service that's taking services to white communities and white zip codes and not African zip codes, you think they turn their benefits away? They're not. They're not going to turn their benefits away. They're going to receive their benefits, and they're not going to have any problem with you not receiving benefits. It's all a nice idea. It's all a nice idea, ultimately, because things have to be done in order to make these things better. So African youth better start looking at self-preservation. And tiptoe and tap dancing and smiling and skinning and grinning, that's not good African mental health, good African mental wellness. Okay? And getting the bag and snatching the bag, that's not the way that's going to create safety for the African community. There's safety in numbers. There's safety in numbers. Even if you get your coin, you're still by yourself with your coin.
Right.
You still turn to Oprah. You still A Michael Jackson. You're still A Prince. You're still A floating Whitney Houston.
And then we'll look what happens in the system when you go too far left. The system doesn't.
Now you're in the situation.
You know what I'm saying? So we have to really protect ourselves and know the pieces that we have available to us, right? To sustain ourselves.
Right.
There's money that sell us stuff does, and those pieces don't matter. Right. We got to get back to the village, the collective. That's the bar.
That's the strength.
That's the strength. Right. That's the transaction. That's the energy yield. Right. Not this stuff that the Matrix wants to offer you.
It's still short-sighted. It's like, oh, you need money in order to do that. No, you don't. Actually, you don't. Because Africa has everything you need. Have you seen what Africans do over in Africa with very little resources?
Yes,
they are freaking magicians. What they need is strategic planning and people who are committed. That's all they need. They need people that are committed with strategy, and that's all they need. You don't actually have to trade with anybody. You don't. Africa has everything. The country of Africa can create intercontinental trade, and they don't have to bother with nobody. Right. Everybody can get out. See, the issue is you keep trying to grapple for what these folks keep dangling in your face, and the illusion that this is what the best is. Right. You keep trying to grab for what you think is the best. They manipulated you to believe that, and you've signed off on it. You submitted. I asked the other day, it came to me like a ton of bricks. Have you accepted the mark of the beast? Have you accepted this white-centered insanity as the only way? Then you've accepted the mark of the beast. We shake hands with our right. You accept it. That's for the Christian folks, because they love to have a play on the Christian concepts. You shaking hands with the right. You accept business with the right. You shake a hand. You accept it in your forehead, into your consciousness and subconsciousness. Absolutely, because it's difficult for you to even think outside of it. So African, start practicing thinking outside of the confines of the matrix. And if you don't know what you don't know, you need exposure to something else. You need exposure to something outside of what you have been accustomed to. If what you have been exposed to is not giving you access to more choices, you need more information. This is why I constantly seek more information. Seek and reach and grab and research and commit. It's necessary to get more access to more options. Get that Yorugu book from Marimba Ani. Get that Awa book, A Warrior's Guide from Dr. Malemu. Get that United Compensatory Code. Oh, you definitely need Menticide. You want a quick, fast, and in a hurry? Menticide will get you up to speed. Menticide, mental suicide. Mental side, the death of your mind. The death of your mind. Get into it. Malemu Baruti at CobenHouse.com. Family, you want to check in with all of these texts? I found Speechify. Speechify. I was looking for the app. Now, all of these books, we've already read these books, but I'm going to be reading through some more books. And this app, take a picture of the page. Take a picture of the page, and you might Menta, no L, just Menticide. Yep. You want to grab it. I don't even have it right next to me. I usually keep it right next to the thingamajiggy, but it's an orange book. And it's called Menticide. Go to Akoben, AKOBEN.
Right, you can that's
house.
Right.
That's it right there. Akoben, AKOBEN house.com. Akoben House.
Scroll up, you'll see the link to Akoben House, and go there and get the text Menticide and tons of text from Baba Malemu Baruti.
You want to definitely get all the texts, as many as you can get.
Jump in.
But definitely start with Menticide as a place to begin the journey, and then you can look at another one called Centered. I would look at Awa. I would look at Kumbuka.
My favorite, of course, is God, the Black Man and Truth by Ben Amin. Absolutely.
It's from a religious perspective, but if you can read through the religious perspective in it, you get the truth. You take the journey.
It shapes it very nicely.
It shapes it so
very
like
succinctly.
Yes.
To where if you had any type of doubts of like what the pieces are missing, that book, in my opinion, wraps it all up into a nice little bow.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
It's a good work. It's a good work.
This is a favorite text of mine too. I'm trying to get through, but like this is a really great text. Strictly Speaks. Just to kind of what's impacting to me, and empowering to me about this particular text is that it almost feels like it's like a guidebook to like what's going on right now, because a lot of language, unfortunately, is very reminiscent of 2020 America in the world. And despite this being articles and texts and speeches from the brother Kwame Ture, aka Stokely Carmichael, back in the late 1960s, around the time not too long after Martin was shot, and and X was killed in the depths of the Black Panther Party or what have you, and their influence. But very much resonant of now, so you can very much read it and it feels fresh. So I would encourage you to read this book as well. As many others, as well as the one that Neff has suggested also. Continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we want to go ahead and wrap up. Listen, how did we become indoctrinated to African Lives Not Matter, and why is it in our community? When did this happen in our community? We want to understand that there's a tale of two Americas. And I know you guys keep trying to integrate. You guys keep trying to, in your worthiness conversation, because remember, African people as a whole have a unified worthiness conversation because you've accepted subordinate posture. So you're obviously trying to get the approval of the top, right? So there's a worthiness conversation that creeps up in the most subtlest ways. So you want to check your worthiness conversation. You want to put your worthiness steeped someplace else other than in this white-centered consciousness.
And sorry, I mean to interject, but that's something that is spoken about. Brother Stokely spoke about too. This idea about integration. Who is actually for? Who is integration actually for? Integration is actually just to keep the quote unquote in the minds of white-centered consciousness the savage beast at bay. Because integration, what it only does is it gets Africans involved and immersed into white culture versus when the idea of integration, to integrate, meaning everything's all cohesive and all is working together, and it's not. There aren't white people coming into Black neighborhoods to patronize Black businesses, what have you. What it very much has is the further division and separation of African, sending the African youth, a certain sect of African youth, to white schools, because white schools seen as the penultimate of learning. The best. Meanwhile, Black schools in Black neighborhoods aren't getting any type of renovations, any type of reformation in the educational system of it, right? But and the rest of and as the majority, as 94% of those schools are still being designated as they are, whereas that other 6% of African kids are going to these white schools, and now they're having a certain type of consciousness conversation. The more they get integrated into that, and now the division has begun, and they're more indoctrinated into whiteness is right because they felt accepted into whiteness
because they got worthiness conversations.
Right, that's what integration has become. Integration is not what you've thought it to be. Integration has become Blackness being submerged into whiteness and assimilation into whiteness, and into white supremacist culture.
Mainstream. Everybody got to go mainstream.
Now you've put it on.
Everybody got to go corporate. Yeah. If you want to get your come up, you got to go mainstream.
Right.
If you want to get recognized, you got to go mainstream. Right. You got to get, you got to get on those ABC. You got to get on those network TVs, the 6 networks out here owned by these, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like you got to get platformed in that space, and then you've arrived. Because other than that, you don't matter. That's how we do each other.
This system is not integrated, family. We are not in an integrated system, to be clear 100%. There's those I've seen those of us that advocate for it, want to justify, their relationships.
We're integrated on the earth. We're integrated on the planet.
Things like that. We're integrated in the planet space.
Right.
We're here. We're all coexisting together. But are we really, in terms of being humane and peaceful and equitable and integrity and dignity with one another? That's the issue. We're integrated as far as we're existing in the same space, but we're actually not integrated in connecting with each other culturally and spiritually and emotionally.
No.
Right. So that's where the integration piece is severely missing. And that's where it actually is the most important in order to actually get us to a better space of humanity and actual equity. So be cognizant of that, family. And again, that's what we talk about, the work that needs to be done. Be cognizant of that, get it in practice, get it in muscle and understanding your social landscape. And that these are the things that are impeding on us as human beings.
I'm with you.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to say something.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah. So
yes.
Stay sharp.
Yeah, you want to definitely check out that diabolical conversation.
Take out that conversation. It's very much deep. And you do not want to believe it. I know you do not.
Want to believe it.
I see it in the conversations I have with folks. I see it in the comment sections. I see it in how people operate. I watch. I'm very much of an observer of humans. I'm an observer. I observe first and then I speak later. Right. So I see these things. We don't want to have these conversations, but we must. The hardest conversations are the greatest ones to have. The most courageous conversations we can have are those that are the ones that help us break free into our liberation.
Come on, break free, family.
Period.
That's something for us to consider. Is that a ask? Exactly. Are you making it a thing? Exactly. Because I know a lot of us, y'all just roll out the red carpet for these folks. They don't even do no work.
Absolutely.
See, that in and of itself is a part of white privilege. That's something me as an African, I don't have access to that.
Peace and blessings, sister Deneen. We appreciate that. Yes, connection does not equal coexistence. We're not connected. We're just here.
We're just here.
But we're not connecting, then what's the point? Right? There has to be something deeper. We have to dig deeper into our connection as a humanity. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, so I mean, we as a community, when did we started to implement the behaviors that African lives don't matter? Mm-hmm. Becky come over here, you roll up the red carpet for her, go run, get her a cup of coffee and everything. I come in here, I got to give you all my first fruits for free for you to kind of see that I'm down, and then you're gonna figure out if you feel like
I'm hanging up my own coat.
With me, maybe I gotta go hang up my own coat, give you all my first fruit. I better come in here groveling and begging and thanking Jesus.
And the only reason
for coming through, because I'm just so blessed to be here.
The only reason you want to go give me my cup is because you don't want me in your refrigerator.
And Becky over here ain't do no work. She ain't do nothing. Matter of fact, she stay messing up. But y'all just roll out the red carpet for Becky. These are black people doing this. And they didn't ask nobody. Then nobody asked them.
And then when they leave the space, you're exhausted. Why? That shouldn't be the case.
What's the deal? Oh, you got these crazy ass bosses who can't get grounded, but you won't check them. You won't check them. You won't offer her a schedule. Listen, I'm gonna give you this schedule right here. This is gonna work for you right here. Can we discuss this? Because let me tell you something. That's where I learned it. Mm-hmm. I didn't learn it from African people, unfortunately. So since they said we was living in the post-racial America, I'm gonna start acting like we live in the post-racial America. And if we live in a post-racial America, I got demands. Here are my demands. This is what I have to offer. And I ain't got to go up in there popping neck and all of this here, doing all of that, because that's not necessary either. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to have an exchange communication that brings you to a place of creating outcomes that are supportive of everybody in the space. So if that's where you're trying to get to, you need to have the manners, the behavior, the strategy, and the offering that's going to eventually create those outcomes. And this is something that African people, I don't care how many doctoral degrees they have, are lacking in this area.
Period.
They're lacking because they became subject matter experts in the matrix looking for worthiness. I was on track for the doctorate program. But if the doctorate program was going to infuse my studies and allow me to do what I want to do, and I would do it, it would be beneficial to me, I would. Yeah. But I don't see that it will.
It can infuse your studies, but is it infusing your soul?
I don't see that it will.
Is it making you a better human, or is it making you better at being?
I don't see that it's going to help.
Clinically and analyzing the situation.
But this is what we do. But I'm not saying I'm an academic. I believe in education. I believe in education. This is not a slight at education. I'm talking about how the people who are educated and how they utilize their education. They're not utilizing their education to synthesize it and make it in African, right? Make it African. Make it applicable and make decisions and stand by them and make everybody else adjust to you. Mm-hmm. You don't owe nobody nothing. You are owed. Something is owed to you. That's not superiority. It's not the same thing. Mm-hmm. Because that's what white center conscious wants you to think. That if you start talking about separate, that you being superior. It's a manipulation in language. But you know what your intentions are. You can't pour from an empty cup. So I have nothing to offer you. African community has nothing to offer the world until we get our ish correct. So I'm gonna need to back you out of here. Excuse me, give me some room. Because I need to work on some things over here. Thank you. Come back next time, make an appointment. Do just like white folk, because we live in a post-racial America. And in a post-racial America, that's what white center conscious is gonna tell your black ass.
I hate that
we can't receive you right now. Call and make an appointment.
I can't stand that lie. That's like the worst thing ever.
But
post-racial America.
These clowns out here believe in it. We believe in it's us. Grandma said, you see a fool, use a fool. That's what Grandma said. If you see a fool,
why
use
is race
a fool.
still a problem then if it's post-racial?
No, but that's because they post don't want to deal with the crap. That's what it is. They post ain't getting ready to do nothing about it. They post it's exhausting to think about. They post I don't feel like dealing with it. They post I'm being my kids, we good. They post my kids is good, I'm good. We don't care about nothing else.
That's why I said
we're gonna keep these Africans checked. If it requires for me to be my kids to be safe and for Africans to be getting shot in the street, if it's a reasonable collateral damage, they consider it collateral damage. It's a reasonable. That's how everyday John and JQ public white people deal with that information.
But if we were to process that, we're a threat to the rest of people. That's when they do the mean share of the kids, where they have the white family of the kids all have their rifles out there hunting deer and hunting giraffes, dangerous animals, like and koalas and goats. But the image of the black kids with the guns is that problematic, and that's the tale of two Americas that we constantly dealing with. So as long as we stay with these things, and then not be in a conversation, it shouldn't have to be about race. It shouldn't have to be, but it is. And once you get in tune with that, you can do something about it. Because once you know, you can't unknow. And we're choosing to unknow stuff that we already know. That doesn't work. You should be unknowing the conditioning that has you destroying yourself. But you can't unknow that you need to make these changes. You cannot know that these things exist that are causing detriment to you. So with that knowledge, you get to apply what you know and do something about it. Period.
Oh, so family, this is what we got. We got work to do out here in these streets.
Always.
As usual, family.
There's always work to do with family. So
it's a daily practice. We have to make it a daily practice.
Absolutely. So you already know what it is, family. This is Soundbytes International Radio. This is Black Conscious Declaim.
World is an aim.
All day, every day. So you know how we do on Monday nights, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the old Book of Faces and the tubes of views and the twitches of the turds. I tried to find something, I couldn't make it. But and the tweets. So we're available. We're out here to have these conversations with your family because it matters, right? We don't get no residuals from it. It matters. Yeah, absolutely. I know. I
want to see that for a minute because I want to bring up the poster for this week's Wednesday's African in Business.
Oh,
we're gonna have our last week's guest on for African in Business.
Oh, that ain't up here. But
okay, no worries.
So
no worries. So we'll have a guest on this week.
This Wednesday is our African in Business series. For those who follow our African in Business series, highlights various Africans in business, whether here or abroad. Here, meaning U.S. of course, that engage in the business in support of Africans, in support of our growth of our community, in support of our economic expansion, and the understanding that we provide the bare essentials that we need to succeed in the face of the matrix. Destroying that dependency on what the matrix offers us. So this Wednesday we have a special guest. You want to give the information to get on the guest?
Yes, we're gonna have Mary Atu. She's coming in with the Kitty Atu's Mother's Love Foundation from Sierra Leone. She's gonna be talking to us about
Sierra Leone family, international family. Yes,
international family out there. Basani's on the ground out there doing
that's
the damn
Basani
thing.
Black Star Action Network International.
Give thanks. And but this Mary Atu, she's not affiliated with that particular organization.
Right,
separate organization.
She's out there.
Kitty Atu, excuse me. A Mother's Love is going to come on, and she's going to talk about her effort she does a lot of outreach for education and support for the children on the ground in Sierra Leone and supporting them. So we're going to have her on the show, and she's going to talk about that effort. It's going to be pretty interesting. So I need to make sure that you guys come in and also share the link. Yes. We're going to have real conversations about real things. These are real life, right? We don't do the bells and whistles. We're not here for the name dropping. We're not here for, it's just us. It's just us, family.
And guess what? And that's enough.
It's enough.
Period.
It's plenty. It's enough.
No matter who thinks what.
I'm not a fan. This is my work. This is my life.
Right.
This is your life. This is not edutainment. This is real life here. We really doing life skills support here at Soundbytes, making this a daily practice and making this implementable and bringing it into our homes and putting it into our children's minds. We are not arming our kids with effective conversations because we're afraid to bias our kids. I'm here to tell you, people who have white-centered consciousness of 400 years of oppressing African people have been biasing their children. And they've been doing it through indoctrinating you as subordinate. And they've been training their children as superior. They have biased their children because this system did not run the way that it's running without biasing their children. Because if they were talking about equity and humanity would have been created in 400 years.
Period.
Do you understand me? So stop beating yourself in the head with a ghost in your closet or under your bed and teach your children the truth.
Right. So
that they can divulge solutions for the truth. There are schools out here. We got Watoto. We got Brother Mark Klein out here. We got Brother We got the Ubuntu, the Uhuru Academy. We have, what do you call it out there? Oh God, I want to think of it right now. Little Sun People out here in Westside Brooklyn. There's so many African-centered schools where we have it, and the Alcoban Institute out in Atlanta. We have so many different aspects when we engage in their children. I'm helping with the adults because I want to make sure when the children come out and they're ready to be enforced, that the adults are not making stupid decisions and jacking up the space. So we're going to try to help these adults who are stubborn and help them get right and help them start to format their lives so that they create safe spaces for these children with right knowledge. Because it wasn't my family who was going against me, who did not provide safe space as I cultivated my African-centered consciousness. They were no help at all. And if I wasn't the person I was, they'd have eaten me up and spit me out. Worse than the street. You understand? Family are the ones who can cut you deepest because they know exactly where it hurts. Let's not be dismayed in it all. Get to work. Disillusioned. Okay? Get to work. We got work to do, family. So we in this grind. We with you. We're going to stand here right next to you. Lock on. Brother Baraka said, hold the line. Hold the
line. Shouts out to man Baraka. Good man out here.
Powerful man out here.
Keeping that African spirit strong. A rarity amongst
leadership, African leadership.
Country. So elected officials, period. So shouts out to him.
He's an anomaly.
Hold the line, family.
He's an anomaly.
Sure as hell. Protecting at all costs. We talk about that. Protect
our leaders, man.
Protect our leaders that actually stand for us and actually give a shit about us.
And it shouldn't be a threat.
Be a clout.
It shouldn't be a threat.
Right, it shouldn't be a threat. Absolutely. So stand with us, family. We standing with y'all. We, like I said, we've been here. We in the fight with this conversation at the very least, and then some. We'll come to your community and do the same thing. Right. Thanks. So that's what it be. So this is Soundbytes International Radio. Remember, we gotta do a house cleaning. Make sure you follow us.
That's right.
House cleaning, housekeeping, whatever you call it, right? Remember to follow us and like us on Facebook. If you're watching us on Facebook, that's wonderful. But just please make sure you're actually liking. Yes, we appreciate y'all for coming in. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you for leaving your comments because it's a discussion. So I mean,
we're not here to talk at y'all.
Yeah.
Like we come on, y'all. We know some of y'all be on here. Y'all be saying we say it. We ain't talking at y'all. Don't just sit here and observe us.
Come on in,
it's
man.
a powwow. This is a powwow. This ain't a broadcast. This is a meeting. This is a family meeting, right? So we here for your thoughts just as well. We come with our experiences and what we've accumulated as our education in this work,
our practical knowledge.
And it's like we said, it's always learning experience. So we learn from y'all just as much as if you are learning from us and find value in what we bring. We appreciate that, and we also find value in what you bring as well. So please continue to engage in these conversations with us. Follow us and like us on Facebook, Soundbytes INTL Radio. Also follow us on Twitter, Soundbytes INTL, where we are also streaming live right now via Periscope. Soundbytes International Radio on YouTube. Please subscribe. Please subscribe on our YouTube channel so we can get more subscribers, get more energy up, and get more opportunities available through this YouTube platform, this matrixy platform that we're getting us by while we figure some shit out. So please subscribe it. Also follow us. I said Twitter already. Follow us on Instagram. I'm about to move that because that's always getting in my way. Instagram is Soundbytes International Radio. Please follow us on Instagram as well for these conversations. And of course, again, as you see scrolling at the bottom, visit the website. This is soundbytes.com, where you can follow our podcast, Soundbytes International Radio on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can get our merch, get some Soundbytes merch.
Yes.
And you can also, if you like, if you find value in what we bring here and you want to contribute or donate or provide, gifts or what have you, we do appreciate it. Any size denomination is lovely. And just the energy yield is really appreciated. You can contribute there or contribute to our Cash App at $ Soundbytes Radio. So those are those things.
So UNDBYTES.
Absolutely. Ashe. Peace and blessings, Faustine. We appreciate you. Thank you for driving home, listening to what we got going on. We appreciate you.
Awesome.
Stay safe on the roads.
And listen, drop your comments on the replay.
Right.
Replay
If you want to catch the replay and come and leave your comments, please feel free. We'll interact with you on the comments. Like I said, we love hearing our thoughts of our family and figuring things out. We hash it out together. So you know how we do when we closed out. We're gonna hit y'all with that I am, getting in the energy of our I am. That's how we start off the week. Shout out to brother Nyan Bricks as always. Of course, my brother AJ Throwback, Joseph Goins, and myself on this particular cut, which we try to close out. The master Path P. So vibe out with us, sit with us, sit tight with us. I'm gonna overlay up for a little bit, but like sit tight with us. We here and vibe out with the music, y'all. It's Soundbytes International Radio.
Come on, get some of this good vibe on you, baby. Get some of this
vibe on your face. All over your face. All right,
it's my love song.
Stick with us and listen to it. Listen to it, vibe out.
And
you can stream it now. It's available on all streaming platforms.
Get into it.
From the Real Bricks, from the Culture album, Culture with a K. So get that now. So yeah.
Get into
the
it.
Face of the earth with the boldness which makes people ask who sent you. I tell them I am.
Shit.
They tell me that's a cute affirmation, but it's not an answer. I reply, listen again. My affirmation is your answer. It's the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Into the reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. Turn up, $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of I am. Handsome chocolate mofo, yo. Anytime I'm on GoPro, little hot home growth. Hit the spot with a cold soul, yo. This is without morale so low. So I pitched it fast, pitch it slow. To the cows call home, bro. It didn't make sense. I was told as a child I wouldn't be shit. Revenge on my mind, started flipping the script. They fed me lies, started picking that shit. They treated me different, I embraced that shit. You know the ones that be closest to you to be the family ties. Sacred bars, seeing plenty murder, dirty service, little cuz, cock, I want a dirty burner. But better believe in me 1,000%. Better I achieve what I was saying again. I couldn't resist. Killing these niggas with their toxicness without a popping pistol monotonous. Told myself I couldn't rock with this. Hanging with goofies couldn't get rich. True blood suckers couldn't see bliss, couldn't see shit. Stole face, nigga. They're wrong. I ain't regurgitating, percolating, singing the same song. I'm blessed all day long, lame all day long. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. Nigga, I am. Some people might say I'm washed. Well, they're absolutely right. I am washed. I said washed, cleansed, and purified of the nonsense they try to attach to my context. I am resilient. I am more than a survivor. I am a thriver. It's the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Into the reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of I am. I'm totally surprised at the nails from setbacks that those I give jetpacks that no planes don't fly. Now I'm in no place, so wasting my time. Focus my goal, that's a shit paradigm. I get up and go to keep my hopes on time. So I'm on the road with a goal that's refined. Riding with a mean vision. Reflecting from every angle to a clean prison. Matter reflecting in technicolor and green. When I lost my mother, found peace aside my queen, and I laid it on my brother's ear. Bars was shaping up the grand scheme. I don't wrestle to the mat on my jam demons. In a matter of time, became a champion. Now my everyday marches to do the damn thing. So my aims are packing up the arena. Inspire the future leaders with every line of the levers. Of gods and unbelievers. Do what they can conceive us. Know what we do and leave us. Brick they never see us. God damn, I'm feeling good, motherfucker. What they say, I'm doing what they never would. Come on, African. Yeah, get a grasp on your life, yup. They made a sacrificial price, go to your drum, playing nice. Hey. Nice, from the north to the southeast. Kicking others every lane, shit about seats. I'm aligned with it, man, you cannot be. Everything won't get done. Man, I ain't talking in terms of I wish, I want to, or even I will anymore. Only things I proclaim, I do. I have and I am. I do as my ancestors instruct. I have all I need to affect change, and I am a living magnification of God. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Into the reflection, I digress. I love you more, never love less. I love you more, never love less. Come on, family. $1 million dreams, yeah, I manifested that. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. $1 million dreams, yeah, I manifested. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Just look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of I am. What?
No one can deny the power of I am, family. Soundbytes International Radio. Again, join us this Wednesday for African in Business, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on our Facebook. And of course, every Monday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. For Soundbytes International Radio. One love. Have a blessed one. Peace out.
Keep it tight.